The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in chaos unlike anything the ancient halls had ever witnessed. Representatives from all 12 species spoke over each other in a dozen different languages, their voices creating a symphony of panic and disbelief. Chancellor Vexthul stood at the center of the room, his blue scales now pale gray with shock. Data pads and holographic displays covered the crystal table in front of him, each one showing more devastating news from across the galaxy. "This is impossible," he shouted, throwing another report onto the growing pile. "Our intelligence showed human forces at no more than 300 ships total. Where did these fleets come from?" Trademaster Selenius flickered rapidly through colors that indicated extreme distress among her people. Her crystalline form, usually so controlled and elegant, now pulsed with chaotic patterns of red and orange. "They have hit 17 major trade routes simultaneously," she reported in a voice that cracked like breaking glass. "Our commercial operations are completely shut down. It is as if they knew exactly where to strike for maximum economic damage." War Leader. Gorth sat heavily in his chair, which groaned under his massive weight. The proud Kraxan commander looked like he had aged 100 years in the past 6 hours. His yellow eyes, once bright with confidence, now stared at nothing. "My first fleet is gone," he said quietly. 300 of the Empire's finest ships, destroyed or captured. The humans. Their technology is decades ahead of what we believed possible. High Admiral Thyros of the Nexari Federation pulled up holographic battle reports from across the galaxy. His gray skin had turned almost white, and his large black eyes showed fear for the first time in his long military career. "Their ships use stealth systems that render our sensors completely useless," he reported. "Weapons that penetrate our best shields as if they were made of paper. Some kind of adaptive defense system that learns from our attacks and becomes stronger with each hit." The insect-like ambassador from the Vorthan Collective clicked his mandibles in distress. His compound eyes reflected the holographic displays as he spoke through his translation device. "The Collective's border worlds have gone silent. All communication cut off. Our patrol fleets report human vessels appearing in systems we thought were secure." What the alien leaders were slowly beginning to understand was that humanity had spent 3 years playing a very different game than the one they thought they were in. While the Galactic Council believed they were observing a desperate, technologically inferior species fighting for survival, Earth had been conducting the most successful intelligence operation in galactic history. Every border skirmish had been a learning experience. Every retreat had been a strategic withdrawal designed to gather more information. Every apparent defeat had actually been a victory for human intelligence services. Director Kate Sullivan of Earth Intelligence had orchestrated the entire deception from her office deep beneath the surface of Luna. While alien spies thought they were watching human military preparations, they were actually being fed carefully crafted misinformation designed to hide Earth's true capabilities. The real human. Fleet had been built in secret shipyards hidden throughout the outer solar system. Advanced technology developed in black sites that did not officially exist. Weapons tested on remote asteroids far from any possible observation. For 3 years, humanity had pretended to be weak while growing stronger. They had acted desperate, while carefully planning every move. They had appeared primitive while developing technology that surpassed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Ben Parker, who had been quietly observing from the gallery during the previous days, failed. Peace talks finally stood up and walked toward the central podium. The chamber fell silent as the unassuming human approached the speaking platform. "Honorable representatives," he began, his voice carrying easily through the enormous hall. "I have been authorized by the United Earth Federation to present you with updated terms for ending this conflict." Chancellor Vexthul's scales flushed dark purple with rage. "You are in no position to make demands, human. Your sneak attacks may have caught us off guard, but we still outnumber you." Parker smiled, and it was not the polite diplomatic expression the aliens had grown used to seeing from humans. This smile was something much more dangerous, like a predator showing its teeth. "Actually, Chancellor, You are wrong about our position. While you have been meeting here in emergency session, human forces have achieved complete space superiority in 47 star systems. Your combined fleets have been reduced by more than 60%. Your trade networks are in ruins, and your colonies are cut off from outside support. He activated a holographic projector that filled the air above the table with a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red markers indicated systems under human control, blue showed remaining alien holdings, and yellow marked areas of ongoing conflict. The map was overwhelmingly red. Trademaster Selenius stared at the display in horror. How is this possible? Our intelligence reports showed... Your intelligence reports showed exactly what we wanted them to show, Parker interrupted. For 3 years, you have been fighting the smallest and least capable portion of our military forces. What you thought was our main fleet was actually a training squadron designed to study your tactics and technology. War leader Gorth struggled to his feet, his massive frame shaking with rage and disbelief. You dare to claim that our defeats were planned? That the mighty Kraxan Empire was defeated by children playing war games? Parker's expression did not change. Your empire was defeated by superior strategy, better technology, and more accurate intelligence. The same is true for all of your species. You spent 3 years watching shadows, while we prepared for this moment. High Admiral Thyros activated his own display, showing the current positions of all known fleets in the galaxy. The numbers were staggering. Human forces appeared in systems that should have been empty, controlling trade routes that should have been secure, occupying positions that should have been impossible to reach undetected. Where did you get the resources for so many ships? He asked. Our economic models showed that humanity lacked the industrial capacity for such a massive military buildup. Your economic models were based on incomplete information, Parker replied. You observed our public shipyards and counted our registered mining operations. You did not see the automated factories we built in asteroid fields, or the resource extraction operations hidden throughout uninhabited systems. The alien representatives sat in stunned silence as the true scope of human preparation became clear. Everything they thought they knew about humanity had been wrong. Every assumption about human capabilities had been carefully crafted deception. These are our terms, Parker continued, activating another holographic display. Complete withdrawal of all non-human military forces from systems within 50 light-years of Earth. Reparations for the unprovoked attacks on human colonies over the past 3 years. Formal recognition of humanity as an equal member of the galactic community with full voting rights in an expanded council. Chancellor Vexthul slammed his fist on the table again, but the gesture looked desperate rather than authoritative. We will never agree to such terms. The other species of the galaxy will not accept human dominance. You misunderstand, Parker said calmly. These terms are not a request. They are a statement of the new reality. You have 48 hours to respond with your acceptance. If you refuse, we will consider it a declaration of continued hostilities and act accordingly. The human captain looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each alien representative in turn. I should also mention that this conversation is being broadcast live to every major population center in the galaxy. Your people are watching. They can see the tactical displays showing your military losses. They know you have failed. The implications hit the alien leaders like a physical blow. Their own populations would demand to know how such a catastrophic defeat had been possible, how their supposedly superior leaders had been so completely outmaneuvered by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Parker gathered his materials and prepared to leave. You have 48 hours. I suggest you use that time wisely. As the human walked toward the exit, the Great Hall erupted in arguments and accusations. Each species blamed the others for the disaster. Each leader tried to find someone else to take responsibility for the greatest military defeat in galactic history. But Captain Parker was no longer listening. He had delivered his message, and now it was time for the final phase of humanity's plan. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who appears weakest, right up until the moment they decide to stop pretending. 6 months after the failed peace talks, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the UES Sovereign, humanity's newest and most advanced flagship. Through the massive viewports, he watched as representatives from across the galaxy gathered in neutral space for the formal treaty signing ceremony. The ship itself was a statement of humanity's new position in the galaxy. 3 miles long and bristling with the most advanced technology known to any species, the Sovereign was both a diplomatic venue and a reminder of what had changed in the past year. Ambassador Lisa Carter, now serving as humanity's first permanent representative to the expanded Galactic Council, reviewed the final treaty documents one more time. The terms were far more moderate than Captain Parker's initial ultimatum had suggested, but the message was unmistakably clear. "Any second thoughts about how we handled this?" she asked Morrison as they watched the alien delegations arrive in their shuttles. Morrison considered the question carefully while watching a Kraxan transport dock with the Sovereign. War Leader Gorth himself emerged, no longer wearing the elaborate battle armor of a conqueror, but the simple robes of a diplomat seeking peace. "We gave them every opportunity to treat us as equals," Morrison replied. "They chose to see us as primitives to be conquered or controlled. Sometimes the only way to earn respect is to demonstrate that underestimating someone can be fatal." General Kevin Hughes joined them at the viewport, carrying a secure data pad with the latest intelligence reports. The military leader looked satisfied but not triumphant as he reviewed the information. "The new defensive networks are operational ahead of schedule," he reported. "Early warning systems cover twice the area we originally planned. The rapid response fleets are positioned throughout human space. If anyone gets ambitious again, we will know about it long before they reach our borders." The irony was not lost on any of the human leaders. The Galactic Council's attempt to force humanity into submission had instead revealed Earth's true capabilities and elevated them to a position of unprecedented influence in galactic affairs. What had started as a 3-year conflict that the aliens thought they were winning had actually been humanity's advanced course in understanding galactic politics, technology, and warfare. Every lesson had been carefully studied and applied to building a military force capable of protecting human interests. In the main conference hall of the Sovereign, the treaty signing ceremony began with all the pageantry expected of such a historic moment. Representatives from 13 species now sat around the circular table, with humanity occupying a position of obvious importance. Chancellor Vexthul, his blue scales now showing the gray patches of advanced age, spoke first. His voice lacked the arrogance that had once defined his public appearances. "Today we formalize a new understanding between the peoples of the galaxy," he said. "The events of recent months have taught us all valuable lessons about the dangers of assumptions and the importance of mutual respect." Trademaster Selenius had also changed significantly since the failed peace talks. Her crystalline form now displayed the subdued colors of humility rather than the bright arrogance she had once shown. When she spoke, her musical voice carried notes of genuine respect. "The Eldari Consortium acknowledges that our previous assessment of human capabilities was incomplete. We look forward to mutually beneficial relationships based on equality rather than dominance." War Leader Gorth's statement was perhaps the most significant. The massive Kraxan leader had built his entire career on military conquest, but his tone now reflected hard-learned wisdom. "The Kraxan Empire has always respected strength," he said. "We now recognize that humanity possesses strength in forms we did not understand. We accept the new reality and pledge to honor these agreements." High Admiral Thyros of the Nexari Federation nodded in agreement. "Our tactical analyses have been updated. We believe these new arrangements will provide stability for all parties involved." The treaty itself was a masterwork of diplomatic language that managed to address the concerns of all parties while firmly establishing humanity's new status. The territorial concessions were significant, but not crippling. The reparations were substantial but manageable. Most importantly, the recognition of human equality was complete and binding. Ambassador Carter stood to address the gathering as the documents were formally signed and sealed. Her words would be broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy, marking the official beginning of a new era. Today marks not the end of conflict, but the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history, she said. Humanity does not seek to dominate or control other species. We seek only to ensure that all peoples are treated with dignity and respect. She paused to look around the room, meeting the eyes of each alien representative. The events that brought us to this moment were not of our choosing. We would have preferred to join the galactic community as peaceful partners, but when that path was closed to us, we chose survival and strength over submission and slavery. The signing ceremony concluded with the activation of new communication networks that would connect human worlds with the broader galactic community. Trade agreements that had been impossible under the old system were now being negotiated. Scientific exchanges that could benefit all species were being planned. But perhaps the most important change was in the balance of power itself. No single species or alliance could now dominate the others. Humanity had effectively become the galactic equivalent of a superpower, but one committed to preventing the kind of abuse they had nearly suffered. As the alien delegations prepared to return to their homeworlds, Trademaster Selenius approached Ambassador Carter privately. Her crystalline form displayed colors of curiosity mixed with respect. "I must ask, Ambassador," she said quietly, "how long had your species been planning this outcome?" Carter smiled diplomatically, but her answer was completely honest. "We were not planning conquest, Trademaster. We were planning survival. When someone tries to destroy you, you learn very quickly how strong you really need to become." The Eldari leader considered this response carefully. "And if we had offered genuine partnership from the beginning?" "Then we would have gladly accepted it," Carter replied. "Humanity never wanted war. We simply refused to accept slavery." War leader Gorth also sought a private moment with Admiral Morrison before departing. The massive alien leader moved slowly, his injuries from the Battle of Kepler still healing. "Your tactics were instructive," he said in his grinding voice. "The Kraxan Empire prides itself on military excellence. We underestimated the value of patience and preparation." Morrison nodded respectfully. "Strategy is often more important than strength, war leader. Your warriors fought bravely, but they were fighting the wrong battle." "Indeed," Gorth agreed. "We prepared to fight the enemy we expected, not the enemy you actually were." As the last of the alien shuttles departed from the Sovereign, the human leadership gathered one final time to review what they had accomplished. The observation deck was quiet now, with only the stars for company. "So what happens next?" asked General Hughes. Ambassador Carter activated a holographic display showing the new galactic political structure. Humanity now sat at the center of a complex web of alliances and agreements that would shape interstellar relations for generations to come. "Now we build something better," she said. "We use our position to ensure that what happened to us never happens to anyone else. We create a galaxy where strength serves justice rather than oppression." Admiral Morrison nodded in agreement. "And we remember that peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of justice. The new galactic order would indeed be very different from the old one. Where once a handful of ancient species had ruled through fear and superior technology, now there was a balance of power that protected the rights of all. Humanity had walked away from peace talks not out of desperation, but out of principle. They had been willing to fight rather than accept injustice. In doing so, they had not only secured their own freedom, but had created a system that would protect the freedom of others. The galaxy's attempt to humble Earth had instead revealed something that wise beings had always known. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who appears weakest, right up until the moment they decide they are tired of pretending to be something they are not. The humans had stopped pretending, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral John Carter walked into the big room where all the computers and screens were. The room was on a space station that moved around Earth. He looked tired. His gray hair was messy and his uniform had wrinkles. 3 days ago, something had happened that changed everything. Captain Lisa Monroe stood next to a huge screen that showed space. She held a small computer in her hands. Her face looked worried. She had been reading the same message over and over again. "Sir," the message came. "From very far away," Lisa said. "It took our best people 3 days to understand what it said. The aliens who sent it call themselves the Galactic Council." John walked closer to the screen. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in wars on Earth and in space. But he had never seen anything like this message. "Read it to me again," John said. Lisa looked at her computer. Her voice was steady, but John could hear she was scared. "The message says this: We are the Galactic Council. We rule this part of space. We have watched your kind for many years. You call yourselves humans. Now you must pay us tribute." John felt cold inside. Tribute meant giving things to someone stronger so they would not hurt you. It was like paying a bully so he would not beat you up. "What do they want?" John asked. Lisa kept reading. "Every year, you must give us 10 million tons of metal. You must also give us 5 million living things for us to study. And you must send us 100,000 humans to work for us." The room became very quiet. Other people in the room stopped what they were doing to listen. Everyone knew what this meant. The aliens wanted to take humans as slaves. "What happens if we say no?" John asked. "They will destroy all human worlds," Lisa said. "They call it cleansing protocols." Dr. Helen Brooks walked over to them. She was the smartest person on Earth when it came to studying aliens. She had short brown hair and wore glasses. She looked at her own computer. "John, I have been studying everything we know about these council aliens," Helen said. "They have done this before. Our computers show they have taken tribute from 43 different alien races." "Did any of those races fight back?" John asked. "Some tried," Helen said. "The council turned their worlds into farms. The aliens who used to rule became workers in fields. Their technology was taken away. They went back to living like people did thousands of years ago." John looked at the big screen again. It showed a map of space with little lights for each star. The council controlled half of all the stars in the galaxy. They had thousands of worlds. Trillions of beings lived under their rule. Humans only controlled 24 star systems. 8 billion humans lived on all their worlds combined. The council had more soldiers than humans had people. "How long do we have?" John asked. 6 months, Lisa said. "They want our answer in 6 months. If we agree, we must send the first tribute payment then too." John thought about this. 6 months was not very long, but maybe it was enough time. Captain Rick Hayes came into the room. He was in charge of special military operations. Rick was tall and strong. He had scars on his face from fighting. Behind him came Colonel Maria Santos. She was in charge of spies and gathering information about enemies. "Sir, we got your message," Rick said. "What are your orders?" John looked around the room at all these people. They were some of the best humans alive. They were smart and brave and tough. But they looked scared now. "Send a message to all human colonies," John said. "Tell them to send their leaders to Earth right away. We need to meet in 3 days." "Yes, sir," Lisa said. "Rick, I have a special job for you," John said. "Go to the Titan shipyards. Find Admiral Jake Sullivan. Tell him to make the secret ships ready faster." Rick nodded. "Project Defiance?" "Yes," John said. "Tell Jake we need those ships now." Project Defiance was humanity's biggest secret. For 10 years, the best human scientists and engineers had been working on new weapons and ships. They had made things that no other race in the galaxy had ever seen. The Council thought humans were weak because they only controlled a few worlds. The Council did not know about the secret weapons. They did not know that humans had been preparing for a fight like this. "What about the tribute demand?" Maria asked. "Do we tell our people about it?" John thought about this. If regular humans knew about the demand, some might panic, others might want to give up without fighting, but they deserved to know the truth. "Tell the colony leaders first," John said. "Let them decide how to tell their people. But everyone needs to know what we are facing." Helen looked at her computer again. "John, there is something else. The Council message was not just sent to us. Our listening posts picked up similar messages going to 3 other star systems. The Council is expanding. They are taking more tribute from more races." This made John angry. The Council was like a disease spreading across the galaxy. They took what they wanted from weaker races. They turned free people into slaves. "How long has the Council been doing this?" John asked. "Our best guess is 10,000 years, Helen said. "They are very old and very powerful, but they are also very set in their ways. They do the same thing over and over because it has always worked." John smiled for the first time in 3 days. "That might be their weakness." Lisa looked confused. "What do you mean?" "If someone always does the same thing, you can predict what they will do next," John said. "You can make plans to stop them." The room became quiet again. Everyone was thinking about what John had said. Fighting the Council seemed impossible. But maybe there was a way. "Sir, what are your orders?" Rick asked. John walked to the big window that looked out at space. Earth was below them, blue and beautiful. Millions of humans lived down there. They had families and dreams and hopes for the future. The Council wanted to take all of that away. They wanted to make humans into slaves and workers. They wanted to study humans like animals in a zoo. John turned back to his people. "We are not going to pay tribute," he said. "We are not going to bow down to the Council. We are going to fight." "Sir, they outnumber us 1,000,000 to 1, Maria said. "Then, we better be smart about how we fight," John said. "Get me Admiral Sullivan on the communication system. It is time to start Project Defiance." As his people hurried to follow his orders, John looked out at space again. Somewhere out there, the Council was waiting for humanity's answer to their demand. They were going to get an answer, but it would not be the one they expected. 6 weeks had passed since the Council sent their demand. Admiral John Carter sat in his office on the space station. The room was dark except for the light from his computer screen. He had not slept much in the past month. The door opened and Captain Lisa Monroe walked in. She carried a cup of coffee for John and a folder with new reports. "Sir, Admiral Jake Sullivan is calling from the Titan shipyards," Lisa said. "He says the first ships are ready." John pressed a button on his desk. Jake's voice came through the speakers. Jake sounded excited. "John, you need to see what we have built," Jake said. 12 ships, each one bigger and stronger than anything the Council has ever seen. The new engines make them faster than light itself." John leaned forward. "Tell me about the weapons." "Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon," Jake said. "We combined fusion power with plasma energy. The result is weapons that can cut through any armor." John felt hope for the first time in weeks. Project Defiance had been humanity's secret project for 10 years. The best scientists from all human worlds had worked on it. They had created technology that the galaxy had never seen before. "How many ships can you make?" John asked. "We have materials for 50 ships," Jake said, "but it will take time. Each ship needs special parts that are hard to make." The door to John's office opened again. Commander Rick Hayes walked in with Colonel Maria Santos. Rick looked serious. Maria carried a small computer with new information. Sir, we finished checking out the Council's military bases, Rick said. We found 17 big ones. Each one has enough ships and weapons to destroy a human world. Maria turned on her computer and showed John pictures of the Council bases. The bases were huge. Some were built on planets. Others floated in space like small moons. The good news is that all the bases are built the same way, Maria said. The Council uses the same design over and over. They never change it. John studied the pictures. What kind of defenses do they have? Energy shields that can stop most weapons, Rick said. Gravity weapons that can crush ships, and thousands of fighter craft. But they have a weakness, Maria said. They are very proud. They think no one can beat them, so they do not watch for sneak attacks. Dr. Helen Brooks came into the office. She looked tired but excited. She had been studying Council aliens for weeks without rest. John, I learned something. Important, Helen said. The Council species all think the same way. They follow rules and traditions. When something new happens, they do not know what to do. What do you mean? John asked. They have committees that make decisions, Helen said. When there is a problem, they form a group to talk about it. This takes months or even years, John smiled. So if we hit them fast, they will not be able to respond quickly. Exactly, Helen said. By the time they figure out what to do, we can hit them again. Lisa brought up a star map on the big screen. It showed all the Council territory in red. Human space was a tiny blue dot compared to the red area. Sir, we have identified the most important Council targets, Lisa said. If we destroy these places, their whole empire will have problems. John looked at the targets on the map. There was a military supply depot that fed weapons to half the Council fleet, an administrative center that controlled their government, an intelligence hub that watched all their territory, and a shipyard that built their biggest warships. How many ships do we need for these attacks? John asked. 4 teams of 3 ships each, Rick said. Hit them all at the same time, fast and hard. Captain Steve Taylor's voice came through the communication system. Steve was the youngest ship captain in human history. He was only 28 years old, but he was the best pilot anyone had ever seen. Admiral Carter, this is Steve Taylor reporting from the UHS Freedom, Steve said. My crew and I have been training with the new ships for 2 months. We know every bolt and wire. We are ready to fight. John pressed the button to talk back. Steve, are you sure about this? These Council aliens have been fighting for thousands of years. Sir, with respect, they have been winning for thousands of years, Steve said. There is a difference. When you always win, you forget how to really fight. Dr. Brooks nodded. Steve is right. The Council has not faced a real challenge in centuries. They have grown soft. John stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth spinning slowly below. On that world, billions of humans lived their lives. They went to work, played with their children, and dreamed of the future. The Council wanted to take all of that away. They wanted to make humans into slaves and test subjects. They thought humans would just give up like all the other races had done. How long until all our ships are ready? John asked. 2 more weeks for the first squadron, Jake said through the speakers. The full fleet will take 3 months. We cannot wait 3 months, John said. The Council expects our answer in 4 months. We need to hit them before they expect it. Maria looked at her computer. Sir, if we attack with just 12 ships, we might not do enough damage. Then we make every shot count, John said. Rick, I want your special forces ready to go with the ships. You will board Council stations and plant computer viruses. What kind of viruses? Rick asked. Helen answered. We have created programs that will turn the Council's own computers against them. Their technology is very advanced, but it is also very old. They have not updated their security in centuries. John made his decision. Here is the plan. We hit 4 targets at the same time. Steve leads the attack on their military depot. Rick takes a team to their government center. Maria hits their spy headquarters, and Jake attacks their main shipyard. What about the other 8 ships? Lisa asked. They stay hidden until we see how the council responds, John said. This is just the first punch. We need to be ready for their counterattack. The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone knew this was probably a suicide mission. The council had millions of ships. Humans had 12. The math did not look good, but humans had something the council did not understand. They had the fury of a free people who refused to bow down. They had the creativity of a young race that had not been told what was impossible. And they had the desperation of a species fighting for its very survival. When do we launch? Steve asked. 72 hours, John said. That gives us time for final preparations and one last check of all systems. Sir, what if this does not work? Maria asked. John looked around the room at these brave people. They were willing to risk everything for freedom. They deserved an honest answer. If this does not work, then at least the galaxy will know that humans did not go quietly, John said. Maybe our example will inspire other races to fight back. But John believed it would work. Humans had always been good at fighting bigger enemies. They had learned to use their brains when they could not use brute force. They had learned to strike fast and disappear before the enemy could hit back. The council was about to learn what happens when you threaten a race that refuses to give up. Get some rest, all of you, John said. In 3 days, we change the galaxy forever. As his people left the room, John stayed by the window. Somewhere out in space, council ships were patrolling their territory. They thought they were safe. They thought humans would pay tribute like every other race had done. They were wrong. The age of tribute was about to end, and it would end with fire. Captain Steve Taylor stood on the bridge of the UHS Freedom. Through the front window, he could see nothing but black space and distant stars. But he knew that in 10 seconds, everything would change. Jump complete in 3, 2, 1. His navigation officer called out. Suddenly, space around them exploded with light. The Freedom and her 2 sister ships had jumped directly above the Council's biggest military supply depot. The huge space station looked like a metal city floating in space. It was 3 miles long and had enough weapons to destroy a planet. All ships, open fire, Steve commanded. The Freedom's main guns fired beams of pure energy. The beams cut through the station's shields like a hot knife through butter. Explosions bloomed across the station's surface as the human weapons found their targets. The Council defenders tried to raise their shields, but it was too late. The human ships had appeared so close that they were already inside the shield range. The station's own weapons could not turn fast enough to target the fast-moving human ships. Direct hit on their main reactor, Steve's weapons officer reported. Secondary explosions across sectors 7 through 12. Steve watched as the massive station began to break apart. Pieces of metal as big as buildings spun away into space. The station that had stood for 3,000 years was dying in minutes. Sir, we are getting emergency signals from all over the station, the communications officer said. They are asking for help, but there is no one close enough to save them. At the same time, 400 light-years away, Commander Rick Hayes was leading his own attack. His ship, the UHS Vengeance, had jumped directly into the middle of the Council's main government center on the planet Proxima 7. Rick and 50 of his best soldiers wore new powered armor that made them stronger and faster than any Council. Alien. They had jumped from their ship and landed on the planet's surface near the government buildings. Move fast and stay together, Rick told his team through their helmet radios. We have 20 minutes before their reinforcements arrive. The Council guards at the government center had never seen anything like human soldiers. The guards were tall aliens with blue skin and 4 arms. They carried energy weapons and wore armor that had protected them for centuries. But human weapons were different. Human soldiers fought differently. Rick's team moved like ghosts through the buildings, hitting targets and disappearing before the guards could respond. Security center secured, Sergeant Mike Johnson reported. Planting the virus now. The virus was a special computer program that Dr. Helen Brooks had created. It would spread through the Council's computer networks like a disease, turning their own technology against them. Government database accessed, Corporal Kate Wilson called out. Virus deployed in the main system. Rick smiled inside his helmet. The virus would not just damage this one building. It would spread to every council computer that connected to this network. Within hours, council systems across 17 sectors would be turning themselves off. Meanwhile, Colonel Maria Santos was attacking the council's main spy headquarters on Vega Prime. Her 3 ships had surrounded the intelligence station and were systematically destroying its communication arrays. Target. They're long-range sensors, Maria ordered. If they cannot see, they cannot warn anyone. The spy station was smaller than the military depot, but it was just as important. From this station, the Council watched everything that happened in their territory. They tracked ship movements, monitored communications, and planned their military. Operations! Sensor array destroyed, her weapons officer reported. They are blind now. Maria's ships fired again and again. Each shot destroyed another piece of the station's ability to gather information. Soon, the Council would lose track of what was happening in half their empire. At the same time, Admiral Jake Sullivan was leading the most dangerous attack of all. His target was the Council's primary shipyard, where they built their biggest and most powerful warships. The shipyard was protected by a fleet of 50 Council warships. These ships were each twice the size of human ships and carried weapons that could vaporize asteroids. All human ships, attack pattern Delta, Jake commanded. Use your speed. Do not let them lock onto you. The human ships moved faster than the Council ships could track. They darted between the big enemy vessels like small fish swimming around whales. Human weapons fired constantly, hitting weak points on the Council ships. Enemy flagship taking heavy damage, Jake's tactical officer reported. Their main guns are offline. One by one, the Council ships began to explode. Their captains had been trained to fight enemies that stayed still and traded shots. They did not know how to fight enemies that moved like lightning and struck like thunder. Shipyard defenses down, Jake reported. Beginning main assault. The shipyard itself was enormous. It could build 10 huge warships at the same time. Right now, it was working on 5 new dreadnoughts that would have made the Council fleet even more powerful. Jake's ships fired their main weapons at the shipyard's construction areas. The half-built warships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Years of work and billions of credits worth of materials were destroyed in seconds. Back on Earth, Admiral John Carter watched all 4 attacks through communication links. In his command center, dozens of officers monitored the battles and coordinated the human forces. All teams report successful strikes, Captain Lisa Monroe announced. The Council has lost 40% of their military infrastructure. Dr. Helen. Brooks looked up from her computer. John, the virus is spreading faster than we hoped. Council computer systems are failing across their entire empire. John nodded, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Council would not take these attacks quietly. They would send everything they had to destroy humanity. Sir, we are getting reports from our spy satellites. An intelligence officer called. Out. The Council is mobilizing their main battle fleet. John had expected this. How many ships? Over 2,000, sir. It looks like they are gathering ships from every sector they control. Lisa looked worried. Sir, that is 10 times bigger than our entire fleet. Then we better make sure we do not fight them on their terms, John said. Signal all attack teams to return to base. Phase 2 begins now. The 4 human strike teams had completed their missions perfectly. They had hit the Council where it hurt most, and they had escaped before the enemy could respond. But John knew the Council would not make the same mistake twice. The next battle would be different. The Council would come with everything they had, expecting to crush humanity through sheer numbers and firepower. They would find out that humans had learned from every war in their history. Humans knew how to fight enemies that were bigger and stronger. They used speed instead of strength, brains instead of brute force, and cunning instead of raw power. Sir, message coming in from Counselor Zaref himself, the communications officer announced. John had heard of Zaref. He was the oldest and most powerful member of the council. He had ruled for over 1,000 years and had never lost a battle. "Put him on the main screen," John ordered. The screen flickered and showed an alien face unlike anything John had ever seen. Zaraf had 3 eyes, purple skin, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When he spoke, his voice was full of rage. "Human Commander, you have made a grave error," Zaraf said. "No species has ever attacked the Council and survived. We are bringing our full fleet to your pathetic worlds. You will beg for the mercy of tribute before we are done with you." John stood up so Zaraf could see him clearly. "Counselor Zaraf, humanity rejects your authority. We will never pay tribute to you or anyone else. Come with your fleet. We will be waiting." Zaraf's 3 eyes narrowed. "You will regret those words, human. Our fleet will arrive in your space in 90 days. Use that time to prepare your surrender, because it is the only way any of your kind will survive." The screen went dark. The command center was quiet for a moment. "Sir, what are your orders?" Lisa asked. John looked around at his officers. They had just declared war on the most powerful empire in the galaxy. There was no going back now. "Signal Admiral Sullivan to begin construction of the Second Fleet," John said, "and send a message to all human colonies. Tell them to prepare for siege. The Council is coming, and they are bringing everything they have." As his officers hurried to carry out his orders, John looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the largest fleet in galactic history was gathering to destroy humanity. But humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have wiped out other species. They had learned to adapt, to overcome, and to never give up no matter how bad things looked. The Council was about to learn why humanity had spread to the stars in just a few centuries, while other races took thousands of years to leave their home worlds. They were about to learn what happened when you threatened a species that had clawed its way to the top of the food chain on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. The real war was just beginning.